Hey everybody, welcome to Crack-A-Pack Tuesday, number 82 on the Mana Leak. I'm John as always, and we've got ourselves a pack of Kaladesh here. We're going to crack this open, see what's in it, and see what we would take, pack one, pick one, if this was a draft. Up first, we have ourselves a Built to Last. Built to Last is single white mana for an instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. If it's an artifact creature, it gains indestructible until end of turn. I like Built to Last. I think it's better than Built to Smash. Built to Smash is probably more impactful when it gets played, but the fact that it has to be an attacking creature only and cannot be played defensively, I think makes it worse. Built to Last can be played very defensively by not only making an artifact creature bigger, but by making it just flat out indestructible. I like Built to Last a fair bit. I would never in a million years first pick it though. Never, ever, ever. Up next is Select for Inspection, a single blue mana for an instant. Return target tapped creature to its owner's hand, scry 1. Select for Inspection's fine. It's better than I originally gave it a rating in the set review. I want to say, there's no way I said F, but I had it really, really low. I thought it was terrible. It's still not great. The tapped requirement is huge. Huge. But it is still fine enough. I still pick them relatively late, kind of mid-pack at best, which is not where I would normally pick bounce spells. Normally I would pick them very high, in fact, even first pick. But yeah, the Scry probably saves it a little bit, but I'm never first picking a Select for Inspection. Up next is a Hijack. Hijack, 1 red for a sorcery. Gain control of target artifact or creature until end of turn. Untap it. It gains haste until end of turn. I've never used this for the artifact clause outside of an artifact creature, but it's already a creature. I guess it helps get you vehicles. But yeah, it's an important thing to remember. It might come up here and or there. But yeah, Hijack is your typical threat and effect. They're okay to play probably the first copy. You don't want to go too all in because you do require a target for this card to do anything. I'm not a big fan of it. I'll play them here or there, but certainly never a first pick. Up next is Ninth Bridge Patrol, 1 and a white for a creature, dwarf, soldier, 1/1. Whenever another creature you control enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Ninth Bridge Patrol. Don't like it. I don't think it's very good. Yeah, I've seen them get big. Yeah, I was going to say I've lost to a big one. I don't know if I've actually lost to a big one. But it takes a lot of time for them to get to be big, and you can just reset it by being bounced, or anything can happen to them. And they're a 1/1 for 2. There's too much going on here for it to actually be good. Don't like me a Ninth Bridge Patrol. Cowl Prowler. Cowl Prowler is 4 green for a creature worm. It's a 6/6, and that's the end of the story. It's fine if you somehow missed out on getting an actual game-ending creature, but this ends the game real slowly by being chump blocked forever, and, even a double block can sometimes kill this off. Generally, you don't want to play a Cowl Prowler. It'll be a very late pickup. I'm talking like last 3 or 4 picks at times. So if you want one, you can get one. Don't spend a real pick on this. Up next is Maulfist Squad. Maulfist Squad is 3 and a black for a creature, human artificer. It's got menace, and it's a 3/1, and it can fabricate 1. This is one of the fabricate cards that I love because sometimes it's totally correct to make the servo and sometimes it is totally correct to put the +1/+1 counter on. The people who were harping on the idea that you should just always make a servo, I think were blatantly wrong at the start of the set's sort of cycle way back when. They were way too enamored with things like Ghirapur Gearcrafter and Sandstep Outcast, and they really ignored that the flying is what made those things basically always have to have the that option chosen. The lack of flying makes the servos much less impactful. But yeah, Maulfist Squad I will typically always play the first one and often play the second one, but never first pick. They're sort of like a solid mid of the mid-pack pick. They're not a high mid-pack pick usually, and you can't usually get them low mid-pack, but they're fine. Up next is Foundry Screecher. Foundry Screecher is 2 and a black for a creature bat. It's got 2/1, it's got flying, and it gets +1/+0 as long as you control an artifact, which generally in a black deck you should, because you have things like Maulfist Squads making servos. Foundry Screecher I love. It's fantastic. It's the backbone of many black decks. That being said, it is just a 2/1 flyer. That's not typically going to be your first pick, and if I first pick it, it probably meant it was one of the worst packs I've ever seen. Somebody commented that I should be keeping cards like Maulfist Squad and Foundry Screecher in the view as a potential first pick. But they generally should not. In the average, there should never really be a pack where Foundry Screecher's the first pick. It's just not impactful enough against most uncommons and rares that exist for this to be a first pick. So I'm going to take it out of frame. I love it, but I don't think realistically it's a card that we should keep in the discussion for a first pick unless we get to the end and discover that this pack is in fact the worst pack ever printed. But it has a Hunt the Week. Hunt the Week is 3 and a green for a sorcery. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, then that creature fights target creature you don't control. Hunt the Week is great. Totally fine. It's not nearly as good as Nature's Way, of course, because your creature has to live through the fight, but the +1/+1 typically causes that to happen. Yeah, it could be instant speed, and it would be even better, but it's still totally fine, and I would first pick it if the pack was relatively weak enough. I don't know how heavy I'd go on these. The 4 mana definitely does hurt. The first one is an instant include. The second one, I think you have to question yourself a little bit more. It sometimes still will be an include, but not necessarily always. Next up, we have a Tezzeret's Ambition. Tezzeret's Ambition is 3 blue for a sorcery. Draw 3 cards. If you control no artifacts, discard a card. I'm not a huge fan of 5 mana, draw 3, and potentially discard 1, especially because in blue, despite the fact that there are some blue Artifacts Matters cards, the blue decks don't tend to be that heavy on artifacts, the lack of Fabricate hurting them a ton. I think Tezzeret's Ambition's okay in some decks, but I very, 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 very rarely play it myself. I'm just not a big fan. The 3 blue is what kills it for me. Certainly never a first pick. Our final common is a Dund Operative. Dund Operative is 1 and a black for a creature human rogue 2/2, but if you have an artifact, +1/+0 and Death Touch gets tacked on. This fits in the Foundry Screecher Malfist Squad deck. It's kind of a pain that all 3 of these are in the pack, because that means that this deck is going to be spread amongst a couple of people almost immediately. Dund Operative is very, 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 very good. But again, it's one of those things where it would have to be a really weak pack for this to be the first pick, and it's certainly not winning out over a Hunt the Week. On to the uncommons, we have Underhanded Designs. Underhanded Designs is 1 and a black for an enchantment. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1 mana. If you do, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. You can then pay 1 and a black and sack it if you have 2 artifacts to kill a creature. Underhanded Designs is totally fine. You do need to build around it, but as I said last week, most black decks are going to be artifact decks. They are going to have Fabricate, they're going to have the Operatives, they're going to have a Screechers. This pack is built for that deck. If this was a sealed pack, we'd be super happy. If it's a draft pack, we are passing many, many people, many, many pieces to the same deck. So I don't think Underhanded Designs in this deck would be, or in this pack would be considered terribly first pickable. And I don't think it's generally considered first pickable over Hunt the Week anyways. Our next uncommon is a Refurbish. 3 and a white for a sorcery. Return target artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield. These cards I like because you go straight to the battlefield, skipping your hand, skipping the top of the library. Not being instant hurts it, and being an artifact, or requiring an artifact, does hurt it a little bit, because a lot of the artifacts that are going to be in your typical white decks are the servos that you make off Fabricate, and they're not coming back. But if you have a Gear Hulk, if you have even a Bastion Mastodon, etc., I could see playing this. However, I never have, and I don't know that I've ever seen somebody play it. It's certainly not a first pick. Our final uncommon is a Girapur Guide. Girapur Guide is 2 and a green for a creature elf scout. It's a 3/2. You can pay 2 and a green to give target creature you control the ability to not be able to be blocked. There's a lot of double negatives in there. By creatures with power 2 or less this turn. Totally fine card. It's a 3/2 for 3, which is solid. And the effect is not something to scoff at. It can definitely sneak in a ton of damage. I think this could be first pickable in a weaker pack. I would not pick it against Hunt the Week, so I'm not going to keep it in frame. I think generally you're going to look at this more sort of highish mid-pack rather than one of your first couple of picks. Our rare, which I have not looked at, so we could be really happy or super unhappy, is a Concealed Courtyard. I mean, it's worth some value, so if you're value drafting, you could take it. But really, this is a fast land that you're never, ever going to take in a competitive draft first pick, ever. So it's just out of the question. Leaving us with a Hunt the Week. I don't think there's much of a discussion here. The other things we would consider are the Foundry Screecher, the Dund Operative, the Underhanded Designs, and they are all part of the exact same deck. So for signaling purposes, I don't know that I would do that. Let me know what you would have taken in the comments down below. The Hunt the Week, would you have taken one of those black pieces of the artifact deck? Would you have just grabbed the Concealed Courtyard? Let me know in the comments down below and in the poll up in the top right-hand corner. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can find me on Twitter at The Mana Leak. That's L-E-E-K, like the vegetable, not the card. You can find me at facebook.com/TheManaLeak, twitch.tv/TheManaLeak, and patreon.com/TheManaLeak if you want to help support this channel. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, see you all next time.